Hello again, welcome to today's attempt at the Diffle puzzle. This is Wordle, but we don't know how long the word is. So I like to start with a word that's got all the vowels in. We'll try cautioned for a change today. And it's kind of paid off. We've got a lot of information. We've got a green C-A-E. That means they appear in the word in that order. The C and the A are not joined together, which means they're not consecutive. And the C is a circle. It doesn't have a hard border on the left-hand side, which means we didn't correctly put it first. So in other words, it's not the first letter. We've also got a yellow T, that means it appears in the word, but not in that position. So it's not between the A and the E, but we don't know if it's after the E, or before the A, or before the C. So, the A and the E are the only vowels we can use, which is interesting, because if it's not a C at the start, we're going to put something else before it, such as the S. But then if we do, we also have to put something between the C and the A. But I don't know where I'm going with this, because the T can't be the next letter. We have to have something, then an E, and then the T, if this is correct. And I'm not at all confident about that. So, we've kind of got this sequence, really, haven't we? We need to put a T somewhere in one of those X's, of course. We don't know how many letters we're replacing each X with. That's the other problem. The C not being first and not being next to the A is really confusing. I suppose we could put the T somewhere at the start. Is this how you spell the word traceable? Does it think there is an E between the C and the A? Oh, it did, and it accepted it. And that's just very confusing now, isn't it? The A, C, E are all not between the R and the E. But we do have the E as the last letter, because it's got that hard border. Wow, okay. I've got no idea what this means. Because when you combine the first two guesses that we've had, the A, C, E are going all over the place. And the T can't be the first letter, and it can't be next to the R, because they're not joined together. This is so confusing. Could it just be terrace? No, because we have to have a C before an A. And, yeah, I mean, we do have to use two E's, but terrace would have done. The T can't be the first word, we just said that. Right, so we've got something before a T, before presumably a C and an A and an E in some order, and an RE ending. I mean, this looks like it's going to spell something like etc. But firstly, that's two words. Secondly, it's Greek or Latin or something. And thirdly, it doesn't end in an E anyway. How bizarre. We could have a T at the start, I suppose. Sorry, an E at the start, because we've got to have that second E somewhere. We've got a CA somewhere. I'm still thinking an RE ending. Pet care? No, but it can't be a CA sequence. Pet care would probably have been two words anyway. I suppose it could be a CRA sequence. That's plausible. What would the letter between the A and the E be? I do not know. Wet crate. I've got no idea what's going on. This is one of those where I might just have to go for something that's definitely not correct, just to give myself a bunch more information. Because I'm struggling, in case it wasn't already obvious. CRA something E at the end. Huh. Let's just try scrape, just to see if we've got those letters in vaguely the right sequence. The C is before the R, but it's still not consecutive. Okay. And there's no S. And the A is before the R. So it has to be a CAR sequence in there somewhere, shortly. It's going to end CARE, isn't it? If it does end CARE. No, it can't be, because the C can't be next to the A. So we've still got an extra letter that we haven't accounted for. Oh, goodness. Maybe it's a couple of letters, because it could be a compound word that ends something like that. Now, if that is correct, that accounts for everything apart from an E and a T. How are we going to get an E and a T before the CK? I really have no idea what's going on here. We're going to do an E and a T, then a C, then an ARE sequence. Huh. What can this possibly be? I really have no idea. Let's just try a few new letters and get even more information. I don't know if that's helped. What's the first letter going to be? The letters that I've got left, apart from these CAERT, are really horrible. But I cannot put the CARET in the right sequence. I have to put letters between them anyway. Let's use a few new letters then. We haven't got a G or a V. Nothing that I do is helping. Is there an E as the first letter? Let's try that. Let's just try a face. The E is not the first letter, so what on earth is this first letter? The R isn't the first letter. Okay, at least finally we've got two letters that we know go together. There's a TA sequence somewhere in this word. So there's something, then an E, then something, then a TA. No, in fact, there's something, then an E, then a C, then a TA, then a something. Or is it just hectare? Have I been making this far more complicated than it actually is? It is just hectare. Wow. I massively overcomplicated that. For some reason, I convinced myself that the C could not be before the T. Gosh, that was my worst ever performance at this, I think. Does it have some stats? It does. On average, I use 3.6 words and 25.5 letters. So today was more than double my average. That was an awful performance. I mean, it's not the most common of words, but it's a common enough word that I'd heard of it. I should have got that much quicker. Well done if you were shouting that at home. That is eventually a successful Diffle, but it doesn't feel like it. Thank you for watching if you stuck with me, and bye for now.